Welcome back to Beyond the Map, the podcast where we explore travel, culture, and the experiences that shape who we become. Today's guest is a professional surfer, Joss Ash from Cornwall in the southwest of England. We actually kick things off talking about Joss's early start in modeling, how that opened doors to travel, and how surfing eventually became the deeper connection to trying and tying everything together. From Indonesia to coastal communities around the world, we talk about surf culture, food, identity, freedom, and how travel changes when you truly immerse yourself in a place. This is Beyond the Map today with Joss Ash.
It's still funny now. I actually feel like I'm becoming that person where, as much as I've spent a good majority of my career with a lens pointed at me, with modeling, I was supposed to perform, look right in whatever the product is they're giving you to look right in. And I remember it's terrifying initially because I was like, I don't like this attention. I don't mind because people are far away and I'm just in the surf by myself. But you're in a room and you have the most judgmental people looking at you, and you're just supposed to be this something held up on a pedestal, and you're just in your head, you're clearly not.
Wait, it's such an interesting conversation because I was thinking the other day that I started modeling at 14 years old, which
Wow.
is so young,
It's
so young.
Yeah.
And I remember the agency was Nevs.
Yeah.
I don't think they even exist anymore in London. And just from the perspective of you, like when did you start with all of that? And how did that coincide with your surfing career?
Yeah. So I had sort of opportunities through my surfing career just because you're sort of at contests and you're, around groups of people. And I had me saying, have you thought about doing this? And I was just not interested. I was like, that's going to take me away from the sea. I'm going to be in the city and yearn to be back by the coast. So
Yeah.
my surf career, which lasted until about 28, 29, at the time was like stock market crashes and all the big companies were really dwindling. So they were cutting sponsored riders. And I kind of felt my time was coming up. I would buds that would be, lopped off. And I was 29 and a friend was just like, got to give this a go. Please go and see my friend in London.
Okay.
This contact for Storm. And she was the head booker.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember Storm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was coming back from Indonesia. I stopped there for a day, went to see them, being like, look, I'm probably too old. I've missed the whole boat, but I thought I'd give it a go. And she sat me down and said, look, you're coming at the perfect time. This is where you won't be doing the catwalk shows, but you'll be going straight into commercial clients. So like as a career, it's a really good time. So I was like, oh, okay. And then from then it just spiraled into a career.
I know we've had these conversations before, like not to get deep and philosophical, but when it comes to so for me, it's interesting because it's such a parallel being interested in culture and surfing and traveling and being very down to earth to going into that industry or just, I don't know, like transferring into that industry. I think it's an interesting conversation. Like, how did that affect you mentally? Were you like, this is so superficial? Did you just lean into it?
Yeah. So my initial preconceived thought was it's going to be really veneer-y people, like anything but clothes and aesthetics and just sort of not much depth. I was actually quite mistaken. Like I've met some of the most lovely people through traveling on the shoots we do. You realize everyone is coming from a creative aspect, regardless of it's the hair and makeup, the photographer, the director, the producer, the runners, whoever have you, they're there because they really enjoy it. And they also feel like they're a lucky one to be getting flown somewhere really cool and sort of living out a narrative for a few days, pretending.
And you're still doing this, right? Sorry, not to interrupt you, but you're still modeling, right?
Well, yes, I still call myself a model.
You don't take that seriously.
Yeah. I never have. It's sort of like I still believe I am, but because I've sort of been like a hermit here in Cornwall, sort of like building this house, and
Yeah.
sort of learning about every trade under the sun to sort of bring it to fruition.
Right.
In a way, I've turned my back, or just, I don't think people even realize I'm still alive. Like the industry's sort of moved on. And, to show you're still alive, you'd use Instagram or one of the platforms to be like, and the modern day influencer, it's crazy what people do. And I've never been into that. I don't mind showing an odd surf video or a work photo, but eventually I don't know, you get quite slack. And you're like, that was sort of, last decade. I don't know if I
No,
could be,
I did a fashion show last week and I'm like, something about this feels wrong. I
yeah,
don't I don't feel like I should be doing this anymore.
you know what? I think it's generational. It's like when I felt like when I was surfing, it was all about get really good at surfing and let that do the talking. And then if
Mhm.
people want to blow smoke up your ass or compliment you, like, oh, okay, yeah, because I spent my whole life doing that. Oh, thank you. That's a nice compliment. And then also at the time, self promotion was so frowned upon in my generation. Oh, just let your skill do the talking. And then nowadays, it's like if you don't self promote, you're like you can't. There's not a correct. Put yourself out there and throw all that stuff against the wall and hope some of it sticks and stays. So I don't know. I sort of it gets to me and I struggle to put stuff up because I'm like, oh my god, I'm like
Mm.
another photo of me modeling and now
No, listen, I completely I completely deleted Instagram for months at a time because I was just like, this is not for me. I would rather live, and that's my point. Like, I was the kind of girl growing up. Well, I've known you for I don't even know how many years now, but I'm not going to, again, I've already given away my age. I was, when you met me, I was the girl that like threw caution to the wind and literally was like, I'm just going to go to the south of France, live on a beach. I didn't care about any self promotion. I didn't care about, I was really just living for the moment. I would think I was like literally sleeping on the beach, surfing, and then going to work until 2 in the morning in Hossega. And it's so funny because like I look at myself now and I'm like, I don't even recognize this person. Who was that person?
it's funny. I literally like I feel like I've had lives, where you're just like through the teenage years, it's like that's kind of a blow. So much surfing, so much just you
Mhm.
eat purely for energy to surf. And that was as simple as your brain is. And it was kind of great because you don't, get yourself all sort of busied with politics and anything else going on in the world. It's like it's purely simplistic, one point focus that I believe we're all trying to get back to at some point to get it so specific that you are fully present and there on a subject or a task or a hobby. So I was really young and I held on to that as long as I could. So it's nice, isn't it, when it's really stripped back and you're purely doing something for some connection, which is either traveling, you're working, say you're doing the seasons in the Alps. You're purely there to snowboard or ski, but you have to do the other bits just to keep you in that place. And you try and you have a few friends and really simple schedules so you can maximize your snowboarding or skiing. And that's it. That's
I
all.
know. It's so interesting that it's funny because my partner doesn't surf, but he's a huge skier. And it's like the one time he switches off is going into ski mode and will book as many ski trips as possible during the winter because that's his thing and it's where he gets to switch off. And it is interesting you point that out because I think people are living in this kind of like go 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 mentality that I don't think you or I grew up with. Even if we did, we denied and went, you know what, we're going to just be in the moment. And it's really sad that people, I don't know how to put this, people are not there yet. They're not there anymore. And I sought that out. I was like, I don't want to live that way. I didn't want to be in a corporate job. I had no interest in that. I've always been like pushing against whatever. But now more than ever, like, I think people need that. Go take a surf trip, go ski, do anything other than just like fall into this mentality. And I'm in the US and it's really bad. It's constant. I don't know what it is in Cornwall. And actually I was going to ask you that. Like, do you feel like living in Cornwall has helped you to regulate your life, to be calmer, to stick to your roots?
So in Cornwall, I feel like it's always a recession.
Mm,
It's as if like the prospects in life, in terms of like academia or career ladder climbing, in Cornwall never felt like it was here or part of the environment down here. So if you were sort of wanting to be one of the city boys and make loads of money and work your way up to somehow have a huge office that overlooked central London, that was so far afield from Cornwall. But Cornwall, the main priority in Cornwall is one, you stay afloat. So you do a seasonal job or you do any sort of work that sort of keeps you in this environment.
hmm.
Secondly, the success. And I surrounded myself by a lot of people where they saw success as just being happy and being content with what they have and just nice, earthy, simple stuff. And it's as a young person, you sort of it's already and you're surrounded by that. So it's really lovely. And that's your mentality. And then by curiosity, you're like, maybe I should go to the city for a while. Actually, maybe this would be fun. It's a different conversation, different people. You're going to learn stuff and experience it firsthand, not theoretically. And then you go there, you do all that and sort of go, okay, this is just how I thought it was. And I've experienced it firsthand. So I can like smell, hear, feel what it's like. And then you're like, was that wasted time? Because now I'm back in Cornwall, remembering all the times I was advocating to people in London how beautiful Cornwall is and how if you're struggling with anything in life, just go to Cornwall, go somewhere where it's simplistic and it's not all that fuzz going on, you know?
Yeah, it's really funny because living in the Northeast, now I've lived up here in the countryside, which is very comparable to, and I grew up in Gloucestershire, very comparable to, you know, to that area. I'm an hour outside of the city. I have to go to the city tomorrow. And every time I go into the city and I've worked in there and I've lived there, had my baby there, I'm like, no, no. I mean, I appreciate all that it did for me and my career and everything, but I'm like, I come home and I'm like, this is too much noise. I need, like, I'm at that point in my life where it's like, no, thank you. I think that's definitely like a 20-something-year-old's game. It's not for me anymore. And I don't even know how I reached that point because I was so desperate to get to a big city and do big things and, build my career. But now I'm like, no. And honestly, if I move back to the UK, you'd probably find me in Cornwall. I'm going to London in end of July, just for days.
Nice.
And it's very different to New York, obviously. But I mean, it'll be an interesting journey in the sense of like revisiting the past. But I kind of understand that. I mean, every time I visit a city, I'm just like, no, I think I did that portion of my life and it's cool. I'm good with it. But I cannot see myself raising kids in a city. I like nature too much. I'd probably see myself in 10 years living on a beach somewhere I could probably surf if I can still surf by then
Doesn't
and
sound bad.
hanging out.
Yeah. I mean, and this is it. See, so you could say to someone, oh, like my dream now is to just be by the coast, go on nice walks, hang out each day. I don't have to earn lots of money. And there's a vast majority of people look at that and go, oh, you're just sort of like wishy-washy. You're like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you could be this or have the, be whatever. And I think at certain parts of your life, you have these huge ambitions and a drive to find who you are and your place in this world. And you do it through earning, which is a weird sort of like grade system of like how successful you are if you earn more money. Now, I from traveling, I've seen people who live in like under a piece of corrugated iron, and they're the most happy people I've ever met. And they're so
Yeah.
lucky in just the way they are in life, the way they conduct themselves as human beings, and being around people who have a lot of money and very miserable, completely lost. They have no idea of who they are, but they're like that saying that some people are so poor, all they have is money is so like relevant because you're like, wow, that's all what there is with you.
Yeah.
And you keep
Yeah.
bounding to that, like that's your superpower. And it's like you've got all this stuff unattended to, like the garden's gone crazy. Like it's been sort of organized, you know? So yeah, that's my thing on the whole of like if someone's doing something, they're doing it for a reason. And if they want to do it for 10 years and have solitude, then albeit, you know, great. As long as it's making them happy.
Where is like, because I know you've done a lot of travel with surfing. Where's the happiest people you've seen? Where have they been? And I know we've discussed this before, but just to share with everyone, because we touched upon this, and you talked about families and locations you've been to where, to your point, like, they don't have a lot and they seem ecstatic compared to, like, the upper division of people who have millions.
Indonesia's definitely a place where you go there and you see poverty. This is off the tourist track. You go to the remote islands and people are really just living off. I mean, it sounds really nice. They're just living off rice and they go about their daily duties. And when you go and visit them at their home, it's against a water. That's where they live. And they're just so content. They're so they're so present and they have their purpose of each day, which is their duty, and they're just an absolute delight to be around. And to further the conversation, it was usually when I got back to Heathrow in London, in the UK, I probably met some of the most miserable people or observed some of the most sort of like washed with grey over their face, unconnected people. And that was
Yeah.
just a plane ride. Within 20 hours, it's like a stark difference.
Yeah, I mean, that's so interesting. I have always had this philosophy, which I think is travel to do what you love. But I think that the journey itself of like what you see and learn and understand based on that. And I haven't had the privilege of traveling as much now having children, but that taught me so much. I grew up in a, for all intensive purposes, upper class British household, and I didn't see a lot until I actually like went out there and saw it. And that was just when, like, in our generation, that trend was starting to happen where it's like, let's go out and see what the world looks like coming from the UK. And it was so humbling and so nice to see. And I totally appreciate that. Trying to think what else to ask you about.
Well,
Anything else you want to bring up, Joss?
it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like, especially in the UK, we have a class system, which is
Oh,
it's obvious for us who live in the UK. You're just like, oh yeah, 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 Um, but it, but what the great thing is like once you travel, especially if you're coastal bound,
mm.
especially with a sport like surfing that we get into, it's such a great leveler. Like
Oh
if you
yeah,
like a
100%.
course, you can have like oligarchs, and then you can have the poorest of the poor, and you get them all together, chuck them in the ocean. You have like a 6 foot wave approaching them.
And it
Everyone
doesn't matter.
saying like they're either going to
You're in like fight or flight, regardless.
yeah, it's like no one's saving you now. So like you're either going to totally shit yourself, or you're going to
Yeah.
somehow deal with your breath and somehow survive impending doom, which it might look.
Well, it's true. It's like a tsunami. I tell everyone that surfing is like snowboarding, but imagine like the snow is moving underneath you. And it's take some balls. Listen, honestly, I was trying to think about this the other day. I'm like, I was just looking at a book I have in here, which is called She Surf, which is basically a record of all the women. And I don't know when I bought this years ago, that kind of empowered female surfing, because that's now taken on a whole new role. But
Yeah,
when I met you, I remember being like, am I the only girl that's like into this? It was a very odd time. And now it's just normalized. But it was odd because for some reason, I used to drive myself to, speaking of Cornwall, I used to drive myself to Cornwall in the rain sleep under a tent. I don't even remember what it was called, but some campsite, and find a board where I could just to get in the water. And it was such dedication. I'm like, where did that come from?
I
I
know.
don't know where that desire came from.
Well, you just have that. You have this, yeah. You have this mission, don't you? When you're a kid, you're like, "I'm going to do this, and this is definitely going to work." And I grab that. Someone said, "That's a good place to go. That's a good board to use," and you just do it. And then all the mistakes happen in amongst it all, but you're doing it. You know,
Yeah.
you're taking a chance. And I think as you, this sounds like I'm an OAP, but as you get older, the taking the chance. If you've got like mortgages and stuff that you need to be responsible about, the chances are like, "Do you know, I'm not because I get injured, that's going to interrupt my work. It's going to," and there's this conveyor belt of stuff that's going to all come to a grinding halt. And then you take less chances, you know. And I think if you can somehow be in the position, I guess, say financial freedom might bring this, where you could go, "Do you know what? I'm just going to go to Tahiti for 4 months. I'm going to go skiing off piste, like in Alaska. I'm getting crazy sort of things." I think still, with all that freedom in mind, you're still going to have, like, with age, just responsibilities. If it's not the upkeep of the place, if it's not, you know, whatever subscriptions that you're paying for, I don't know. Yeah, it's a useful game of having carefree. I'm just into it.
I mean, now having with my daughter, I'm like, she's very interested in the water and wanting to be in it. And I'm fully supportive of that. There is something that I think, and if anyone I can speak to about this is you, is like, there is something very different. I don't know how to put this. There's something very like grounding about surfing. And I know it's been talked about on and on and on, but I think it's really important because now with social media, now with, everything is like clickbait and this and that, whatever. When you're in the water, you are so present. And it's sad to me to see that that's being lost. And sports like that for me are so important to continue doing because I don't even want to say it's a sport, honestly. I don't even know what to call surfing. For me, it feels like meditation. You're there. You have to be present. You have to be in the moment. To your point, you don't have a choice because the wave is coming. And you can be lost in that for hours. And it's a very grounding activity that I really want to support and I will continue to support.
I feel that sorry to cut you off there.
No, no.
I think what you're alluding to, which is I always feel, which is it's it's very familiar for a human being. You know, if we get in down the biology route, you know, the makeup of X amount percentage of water, where we feel at most comfort and rest,
Yes.
barefoot on grass, you know, swimming in the ocean. The familiarity of a close friend or a family member or your home, if you can access the same feeling of
Yes.
comfort through then a different environment from where you live, but you're accessing that same feeling just from the ocean, you know, there's something to be said about that because we're all searching for a place that we're happy and feel content. And if you can travel with surfing and find each of those places can give you that same universal feeling, then you're in quite a good place because it really
Yeah.
means you have the freedom to explore in comfort. And that's not hard to find that with many other sports or hobbies or careers.
No, I mean, I think the closest I've ever been to that is like snorkeling or, I mean, I think being in the water, period, has always been something that, like, I don't feel I could never live anywhere personally that I'm not close to the water. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. And granted, if that's for you, go for it. It's just, I need to feel close to the water. So that's been like, if I have to find it, I will. I will find it out. But to your point, yeah, I mean, I think there's something very grounding about it. I think it's, listen, I hope that surfing continues in the sense of like, I don't know where the industry's going. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. And I'm guessing you are still surfing actively now because I've seen videos of you doing so.
Yeah, still putting the wetsuit on. It's like still putting the suit and tie on.
Do you think you'll ever stop, or are you just going to keep going till the day you die?
No chance. Like, there's no way. It's so ingrained in me. Like, so my dad turned 70 in November last year, and we have a Point Break near where I live. It's literally a few minutes away, and it happens to be one of the best waves in the UK. And my dad still goes to this place, which is, considering it's like as large as the Atlantic gets, it always still breaks, and it's on rocks, quite heavy duty rock. It's really powerful, quite formidable wave. He's still the one at 70 taking like the latest, steepest drops on the biggest waves that come through, where most people are scrambling for the shoulder, terrified. And you're just like, this is wicked. Like, he's never going to stop surfing.
No, that's
He's
kind of how
more,
it goes.
yeah, he's more of a kid than I am. And I'm always like, I'll be driving to see my parents. I live like 5 minutes away from my parents. And I'll be driving to go surfing or going to see them. And then I notice dad's already in the surf. And then I go and my mom's like, I know he's been there for a couple of hours already, but he'd surfed already that morning. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go later. You should come in. And it's just like, oh, this is wicked. You have someone who like loves it as much as you do.
Wait, can I ask you, because I know we didn't touch upon this. Did your parents like, so how did you get into surfing? Because your parents surf, right? Both of them?
Well, not so much my mum. She
Okay.
did a Sri Lankan trip actually, God, like 15 years ago. And dad got mum into surfing over the couple of months they were there. And then a little shot of her, like it was the tiniest wave, but she's like standing up on this swell board, this foamy board, just kind of cruising in. I'm like, oh, so cool. Like, dad does it all day, every day. Mum's like never does it. When I was growing up, we lived. Well, I was a home birth in North Camington, which is in Cornwall. And when I was, I think it just after one, my parents bought this little place by the coast in Budmouth, which sort of
Okay.
like overlooked the sea. It's really lovely. And so my first conscious sort of, vision and thought was experience in this environment, which is just the sea and the tides and the surf falls and all that sort of stuff. And I think dad being a keen surfer, he was like, his tactics were like, "Look, if I can get my kids into it, it means I can go surfing too," which is I see adopted by many parents around here. So nature nurture, I think out the window, like you're gonna surf. So like the first time I remember getting in, he would take us down. So I have four sisters and a brother. So we were like a herd of people. So we would go to the beach and he told me about he would like strap me to his back and then like he'd kind of surf with me and stuff. And then he'd like put us all along his boat.
Traumatize you.
Wow. No, there's just strapped on there with like a leash, I think. I was like a feeder fish of a whale. Do you know what I mean? I was just like cruising along. And then he would like, which was real fun at the time. I'm not sure if it's so possible now, but with a bodyboard, he would like, we'd lie on the bodyboard and in the complete shallows where we'd skimboard, he would like throw us around, like spinning like we're on some amusement park. So that was super fun. And then as I got to the age of, God, it must have been like 4 or 5. I remember just like, I was on this really rubbishy plastic board. Where it was so bad. Now when I think back about the board, it shouldn't have been made. But I was on the board.
It probably wouldn't be now.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, it's nothing, it was like a canoe someone adopted to something. And I remember like standing up and then going straight on the whitewater into like, I mean, it was shallow anyway where I started, but it was one of the last little breaking waves from the shore. And then riding to my fins ground out. And I was like, no way. And I remember like that setting too, some people walking their dogs were on the shoreline. And I remember like slightly turning off center. Like it wasn't a turn by no means. It was just a slight veer to the left or right.
Right.
And I remember going, oh my God, I hope they saw it. This is so cool. Like I'm actually surfing. And then it was just a everyday.
It's so interesting that it's like my daughter learned to surf, learned to swim as of last year. And for the longest time, her dad has been an avid surfer for years. and is a pretty decent surfer. And she had wanted he goes to Florida to surf. It's where I originally learned to surf. And actually, funny story. I remember we used to rent a house in Palm Beach, which they have. I mean, it's messy surf, but first time I learned to surf, I went into the water and I came out and I'd had 3 surf lessons and 2 bull sharks went through the waves. And we were about to fly back to the UK and my mum was like, I think it might be time for us to leave. And I was like, no, 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 no. I'm going to go back
God.
because I knew I wouldn't see any waves anymore. So I was like, well, who cares? Am I get eaten? I don't know.
Yeah, I'll be all right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Anyway, Joss, I won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much for being on. My last question for you, I could have you on here forever, and I'd love you to come back. Existential question, which I had mentioned to you before. What does living beyond the map mean to you? It's a question I want to keep asking guests because I think it's important. From a travel perspective, from a psychological perspective, from doing what you've done for years, what does that mean to you? It's a bit of a loaded question. Don't worry. You can take your
Yeah,
time.
yeah, I'm kind of want to be articulate it. So it won't bore your listeners. It's getting out of your bubble. So you have your
I go with that.
when you travel, it's so easy to be like, okay, these are my headphones. I got all my stuff with me. You're the person that you think you are. You're going to this place. You're sort of like not cagey, but like you're meeting people, and it's like we've got all your stuff on you, and then you go into the first place. You're trying to figure out your environment. And sometimes you can sort of just be you and how you like your comforts in a place, and then leave the place going, I didn't really, I didn't really meet any local people, and I didn't really experience what the local cuisine or some of the sights are of that place. I just sort of went there with my own little thing in my head and left. And I didn't really take much in. Sort of like extracted it for itself and then left. Whereas like living beyond the map, you just sort of it's immersing yourself in what that place potentially can offer you. It's just like really feeling what it's like to woke up at certain times in the day. Like if it's in Costa Rica, you have to have a siesta like mid-afternoon. It's so much heat in the air. And all your activities were really early in the morning before the sun got too hot. So there's that real mid bit in the day where there's not much else to do but read or, hang out with friends. And I think if you go to a place, just realize how like there's a rhythm to that place and try and go against that grain, just sort of like to let yourself go with that rhythm. Then I feel that that place will touch you way more, or that experience, for that when you come away, you feel the cultural shock of also coming home and the differences. And I think ultimately, if that grows you as a person through your traveling and meeting people, you know, not talking about world peace, but ultimately it just makes you more sympathetic, empathetic about stuff that's going on and not drawing too many judgments too quickly. And that's what I believe, like living beyond a map is like immersing yourself in the environment and then coming out
Yeah.
with learn some new ways of doing stuff.
Then again, I mean, this conversation we've had before, and I really appreciate that feedback because I think that's kind of what this is all about. Is it's not just about going somewhere; it's about exploring it and what it means from a psychological, not only a physical perspective.
Well, on a parting note, it's that whole thing of not wishing your life away. For instance, just as we talked earlier about I'm restoring this house, full renovation, and I'm so much like, I just want it done. I just like, if we could only be faster or get it done quicker. And it's a bit like actually the real enjoyment and fun and the learning curve and all the stuff that actually you talk about to friends and the
Hmm.
stories are from the whole journey you go through, which you would
Yes.
never ever want it just to be there. It's
Yeah.
that getting to that point, and then you have all the appreciation
Yeah.
and satisfaction from doing it, and that's the stuff that lives inside you, and you can feel that. So
That's true.
don't wish your life away and just jump to the I want to be earning all this money in this career. It's like live through it and up to it, because that's sort of goodness.
Now, because life is short, and then what?
Exactly. It's like you have to start pondering of other stuff to do. It's like, right,
Well,
okay.
this just means I've got to start surfing again.
Yeah, and that can never be a bad thing.
What I loved about this conversation with Joss was the reminder that travel becomes most meaningful when you slow down enough to really connect through people, culture, food, and nature. Surfing may have taken him around the world, but what stayed with me was how those experiences shaped his perspective on freedom, simplicity, and being present. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Map. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show, share it with someone who loves travel and adventure, and I'll see you next time.